Oh, yeah, lads. How's it going? We are the Kitmen. Jack is with me today. Dor is here from Nottingham Forest. And Steve is here from Arsenal. How are we, lads? Right, there was meant to be an intro pop in after that there, but I don't know what the hell is going on. How are we keeping anyway, lads? Yeah, it was attached there. It was attached there somewhere. I know, yeah. I don't like it either. Mark Forrest, how you keeping, lad? You alright, man? Welcome to the chat. Appreciate you popping in. I know the Kitman, lads, is a new enough thing for us. And for you guys, it's been very rare that we're getting onto here recently, but it's going to be twice weekly now as we get closer to the Premier League. So we're going to get everybody we possibly can on and make this a proper Premier League show for at least, you know, a good network of people to pop in and chat away. Jack, how you been, man? Jack is frozen. He's having an old smile there for himself. Anyway, we'll go along to Dor. Dor, how are you keeping, man? Welcome to the channel. I appreciate you popping on, buddy.
Thanks for having me on, Kev. Excited for another season in the Premier League. And, yeah, I'm buzzing. Oh, yeah,
that's cool. Steve is an old mate of mine. And he's popping on, big Arsenal fan, knows his football stuff. Has a lovely dog in the background, so he'll chime in every time he thinks
you hear him. He's a Newcastle fan, the dog.
Every time Steve talks crap, he'll chime in and go burp. And Steve, how you been anyway, man? You alright?
Good. Yeah,
that's good. We'll get to the chat there.
We'll the early transfer window anyway.
That's it. We'll get back to Jack there because Jack is unfrozen there now for a second. How are you?
Hello. Buddy? It's a Scouse Wi-Fi, isn't it? It's all next doors. Yeah, nice one, mate. I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully, for anyone watching, if you are watching on the repeat, then I'll be getting the lads on and obviously a good rotation of guests. It'd be less Liverpool mainly and we're more interested in getting anyone that wants to come on the show in the next couple of weeks or whatnot. You're very welcome to. Just about connecting fans, regardless of who you support, really. And hopefully we look forward to a very good, much more competitive season next season, mate. But yeah, I'm excited, mate. I'm looking forward to tonight's show, and it should be good.
Yes, lad. All right, there we go. So we got Mark Forrest in the chat, and he said, hey guys, hope you're well. And I take it lads, so that's definitely Ricky. So here we go. So we got. How's everyone doing? Everyone's doing great. Mark, Ricky. Yeah, Ricky, I was right. So where are we going? Where are the eyes are first? How you doing, lad? I have no idea what that means, Mark, but I'll take it anyway. Tired lads, you okay? The lads are having a chat between themselves. We get back to that in a minute. Right. So anyway, we go first to Mr. Dor and Nottingham Forest. We're going to see what do you think that of your season, you know, the way it panned out at the end, you know, at some certain stages there looked a bit bleak for you guys, but you seem to pull it out of the bag at the end.
It was going to be leaky anyway. It was up and down season. It was like unreal, to be fair, because we didn't deserve to be in the Premier League after the start we did when we was in the Championship. But being in the Premier League, playing against the big boys like Liverpool, Man U, and the rest of them, it was been an amazing journey for being a Forest fan. And like I said, we had more downs and ups, but we expected it. But to pan out for what happened at the end of the season, to stay up after everyone wrote us off, and yeah, we proved so much that was wrong, if I'm honest. But the last 7 games of the season got Forest to stay up, if I'm honest. But listen, I'm happy we stayed up. The other team from down the road, Leicester, went down. Even Leeds went down. But listen, it was as a Forest fan after 23 years out of the Premier League, it's been a fantastic journey for me and for all Forest fans.
Yeah, it's good to see you back, isn't it?
Yeah. I was going to say, though, in terms of the managerial, like, yous were only one of very few teams down there at the bottom. How important and integral do you think that was? And how much do an important part did that play for you staying up, really? Like, yeah.
It was important because we've got, as you know, got Steve Cooper as manager. He's the one that got us up in the Premier League. And there's so many pundits out there saying Steve Cooper is going to be the first manager to be sacked because, as everyone knows, we brought in 30 plus players. But we had no choice to do it because if we didn't, we would have had 14 players. So, listen, I think it was 14 managers got sacked from other clubs. I think, but Steve Cooper stayed. So, from that point of view, it was important because as a Forest fan, like the Championship, managers will come and go in halfway through the season, and for Steve Cooper to stay in the Premier League because I had my doubts. I think we lost 4-0 to Leicester at their ground, and everyone thought it was going. And then about 2 or 3 days later, he gets a new contract. So for that to happen, and he deserved it because all the negative stuff that's come around Forest, and for that to happen, he deserves massive respect for what he's doing for Nottingham Forest.
That's doing well for your owners as well. You know, it's got to say something because a lot of owners don't tend to. I mean, if you take Watford for instance, if you take Leicester, they don't stick by their managers that often. You know, and
Watford sector manager. I think they're probably due another one now.
Yeah,
4 or 5 a season.
The thing about our owner, right, and everyone knows him, is Mr. Marinakis. He owns Greek side Olympiakos, and in the Greek league, they're trigger happy. If they're not playing good, manager goes. Marinakis, he's been the owner for 5 years at Forest now, and if he sees something not going good, gets rid of him. And I spoke about, like I said, the Leicester game. We lost 4-0, and everyone assumed he was going to go. There's been a few other games that Forest played as well, and I thought, oh, here we go, he's going to get rid of him. But I think Mr. Marinakis put a statement out there saying that he's sick or tired of these mainstream media saying that Steve Cooper is going to get sacked. And he stuck to his word. And this is what happened. Like I said, he pumped it. Like, we can say, oh, owners this and that, but he stuck to his word. He's put money into Forest, and he's kept Steve Cooper for one whole season. Because, as I mentioned again, 14 managers left over clubs. So if Steve Cooper staying for one whole season in the Premier League, and at Forest, what can you say about Mr. Marinakis? You've got to praise the owner as well.
Yeah, I loved his passion. I loved his passion, especially at the back end of the season. That's what he wants. That's what football.
That's what you want.
Yeah,
that's what you want. Because, like I said, what he's done for not just for the club, for the city as well, and the fan base, the younger generation. What I've noticed, I don't want to mention it. We won the back-to-back European Cups, and they've not seen it. So for a person like Steve Cooper to come in, the mess that when he came into Nottingham Forest was, I thought we was going to League One. That's how the mess was. And for Steve Cooper to do this, to get Forest from the Championship, bottom of the league to the Premier League, and then we stayed up. Listen to me, you've got to give the guy his flowers for keeping Forest up.
Yeah, there's only a handful of managers that did stuff like that. I think I remember one time that it was Roy Keane went into Sunderland and did something similar, and he brought him up.
He did exactly the same. I think there's two managers did exactly the same. I think it was Roy Keane at Sunderland, and I think Dean Smith did it for Aston Villa as well. Yeah. So we were rock bottom with 1 point. The point that we got was against Derby, and yeah, if we had Chris Hughton as manager, and if we had kept Chris Hughton as manager the whole season, we're talking about League One football. But listen, Steve Cooper's a legend.
It's a similar job to what the manager of Newcastle did. No, what's his name? That came from Bournemouth. It's the manager of Newcastle again. Eddie Howe. Yeah. See, he brought Newcastle from the bottom straight up without even though the money was coming in, he did it without the money. So there's a few managers.
He did it with Borough last year, but not quite in the end.
Nearly. Yeah.
I mean, they were buried when he came in as well.
Yeah, I mean, these are the step-ups that they're bringing them up to a certain level. So even though, like, the managers we were talking about earlier, and Steve Cooper and Roy Keane got the promotion that they wanted, these other managers have to be given a shout as well. Because, I mean, Eddie Howe got Newcastle Champions League football a year after being rock bottom when he took over. And then, you're talking, as you say, the Middlesbrough as well just barely missed out. But, I mean, that's an achievement in itself to come from where they came from. And it was fantastic.
And I love nothing more than that, boys, as well. You look at managers like Gerrard, Lampard, these type of players that have had great managerial career, playing careers, and just given off the back of absolutely no graft at all from as Steve Cooper and the lads down there in the Championship, League One, League Two. You've worked the bloody backside off.
There's the thing. You was mentioned, like I said, people like Frank Lampard, Steve Gerrard, and even Patrick Vieira have had fantastic careers. And look what they are now. Steve Gerrard's gone to Saudi Arabia. Vieira's gone back to France. Steve Cooper started from the bottom, like he won the World Cup under 17s with England. He did well for Swansea. And I'll be honest with you, when we appointed him, I thought to myself, who's this guy? But now look at us. He's a legend. Gets thrown around way too easy these days. But listen, he's a legend for us.
He was very good for the youth setup for us as well. I mean, that's where he came from.
He was a Liverpool as well. Yeah.
So I mean, he was learning under the school of Jurgen Klopp there, because Klopp had a philosophy. Don't have to get into Liverpool too much, but Klopp had a philosophy down throughout his managers. Yeah. And he said this is where he wants the players learning to play to come up and play for my team. And I mean, I think Steve took some of that on board, as well as his own experience, because he's very experienced, and took that into account. You see a lot of that in Forest playing last season. I mean, for me, if I was to ask you, what was your result of last season for your team?
I don't know a bit in Kevin chat, but we beat you lot 1-0 because I've got so many Liverpool friends. Know that when we beat you lot 1-0, and you lot were lucky as well at Anfield, because we played really well.
Did, yeah.
And that game was a turning point of getting that good run. But
Arsenal, he did something to Arsenal as well, didn't he?
Yeah, we beat Arsenal. Sorry, Steve, I got to rub it in. we beat you lot 1-0 as well. So, but listen to me. The game against Liverpool, I understand more other games like we beat Arsenal.
Yeah.
Even draw Man City. 1-1 is a draw.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But that game, it was a Liverpool's a massive. Big smile on my face.
That, as you said there, Joe, I'm guessing it give you, obviously the results panned out at the back end of the season, but if you're playing that dressing room, if it's a game against United, City, Liverpool as well, but mainly Liverpool and City, considering the levels, even as rivals you've watched over the last couple of years, like the level in which, but teams can do it. You look at Brentford even in the Premier League as well, like teams, when you can get to that level, it can be very much of a catalyst, as you alluded to before, like to really kickstart the back end of your career, or to even go on to even greater heights. Who's to know in the next couple of weeks he's really hit the ground running and really set the foundations, really going into very much the new season.
I think when you're talking about like the Premier League, it's so hard because when we was buying the first plus players, I thought, oh yes, we're gonna do fine, we're gonna do well. And the first game against Newcastle, that is a massive wake up call, because we lost 2-0, and I thought this is going to be a hard season for all Forest fans to watch. And like I said, we beat West Ham I think we drawn Everton, and then beat West Ham, and that. But then we had a bad spell, really bad spell. But listen, this Premier League is rough, it's ruthless, as you lot know. But listen, this last 7 games, but after when we lost to Liverpool, but then games after that, it was just okay. We can stay up, but listen,
we have something there from Mr. Door from Brian.
Did you send a link to Ant? Don't let him Ant. Oh, the Leicester fan. Yeah. Shout out to. No, you know what? I got a message Ant because he said that the Forest will go. I don't know what the bet was now. Forest will go down. Let's stay up. And guess what? You lot are down. We're staying up. That's all matters.
Yeah.
I don't want to upset the Leicester fans because they think I'm a rival with them. I got 5 teams I hate. I don't class Leicester as a team I hate. So. Now they can enjoy Championship for the next 5 years. We're Premier League.
If they're lucky, man, because I mean,
you never know, even longer.
Yeah,
if you look at it, they made some good signings as well. So hopefully they might get mid-table. You never know.
Yeah, maybe we don't know, but we'll get on to a little bit of Arsenal there with Steve. So, Steve, welcome again. I'll say hello to you. Yeah. Your season, last season, good, bad, ugly, a bit of everything.
It was insane, absolutely.
Are you finally understanding how hard it's been for Liverpool to break that City duck in the last few seasons?
Because it's like 2-3 bad results and you just can't catch them anymore. No. They just don't lose a game from like February onwards. They just win every week. So it's like a machine. It's kind of scary, and I think like if it wasn't for Arsenal last season or Liverpool last few seasons, the league is in danger of becoming like France or like Germany. where it's just going to be Man City, Man City, Man City, and everyone else is just battling for second. So it's
that's kind of been our excuse for the last few seasons, saying it to anybody. I said, if it wasn't for us, this would be a farmers' league. You're lucky we're keeping City honest.
And it could still end up going that way. I suppose we'll see what happens with their charges and that. But I think, it was just absolutely out of nowhere. And I think given how young the team is, because I was even looking, like potentially next season you could have a lineup at Arsenal where Zinchenko at 26 and Jesus at 26 are the two oldest players on the pitch.
Wow. That's a good
that
average.
Would be having Saliba and Gabriel and Ben White and Rice and Havertz and Odegaard and Saka and Martinelli. And you'd have Zinchenko and Jesus as the two oldest players on the pitch at 26.
Wow. And I mean, the experience in those two coming from the team they came from as well. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was just going to say, Kai Havertz, I think everyone wrote him off at Chelsea. I don't think it helped massively having like four managers at your disposal, really. He come with that big rapport in the Bundesliga prior to his move to Chelsea, mate. Do you anticipate him and players in terms that he brought in this summer, mate? Obviously, because Arsenal, similar with Liverpool as well, these top teams, we are spending money, but it's all about, we've all looked at Chelsea first and foremost. 600 million spent. It's quality over quantity, really. Like the value within the current market in the last 10 years in terms of majority of all teams in Europe in terms of their transfer kitty. But what would you gauge as a successful season, mate? I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans mention, obviously, a Champions League run. I look at that Arsenal side as a neutral and say that should be going at least to the last 16, really, and pushing on, really, considering
I think
how well you've done last year.
As you know, the Champions League, a lot of it can be the luck of the draw when you come out of, like, what group you end up in. It can be a lot of the luck of the draw when you come out of the group. So we'll wait and see that way. I think to just improve, to be, if they can get a little closer, I suppose the points tally was a massive jump, I think, from like 15 points more from one season to the next. I think Arteta still needs to learn to rotate a little more. I think when it comes down to it, you're putting in players who were a little bit cold the last couple of seasons when guys have got injured because he's not giving them the minutes. So I think he needs to rotate a little bit more. It's going to be strange. I think if Partey does go and Xhaka goes, it's a big risk to change both of your central midfielders, no matter who you're replacing them with. It's a bit different. It's going to be an interesting one because I think Havertz is going to come in to replace Xhaka. I think they're going to play him in midfield. I think he's going to play as that left eight that Xhaka was playing at. Xhaka had his best goal scoring, best assist season for Arsenal last year. And I think Havertz is going to be in the box a lot playing that left-hand side of midfield.
I completely forgot about Rice Baby, or whatever you want to call them. Like, you anticipate him to have that desired impact. Well, you'd hope 400 million or
he doesn't have much choice at this stage. He's got to be good. But again, I think another thing with Arsenal, you look at the likes of Odegaard, who's a leader of the team, Rice coming in as a captain. They have a lot of leaders as young as they are. I think Gabriel is someone who can end up being a captain of, somewhere. Really leads from the back as well. Saliba, I suppose he's only had the one season, but he looks really, really impressive. But again, it's his injury is going on longer and longer and longer, so you don't know what he's going to be like coming back. Timber coming in from Ajax.
Very good sign, I think.
Very good signing.
Yeah. And a guy that can play, like most Ajax players, can play anywhere in the pitch, essentially, which is kind of what Arteta likes to do anyway. And it's just having him inverted.
Except for Anthony.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because he's going to have a lot of expensive players, and trying to fit them all into the one team is going to be tricky, and that's something he's not had to do. It's something Arsenal haven't had to do for a while because, even 2 summers ago, there's no chance Declan Rice is going to Arsenal. It's just not going to happen, or Kai Havertz or anything like that. But it's, you've got to give credit to the board that they are backing the manager, they are backing Edu, and I love that they're going out and getting the players now before they're really back in pre-season, before they go on tour. They have a chance to play, learn the system and everything before the season starts, and you hope to hit the ground running then. None of this trying to, scramble for players in August like was often the case before. I think there was one summer where Peter Cech was the only player we brought in.
Yeah, we've had those windows as well. I hate these kind of, but one thing I hope for Arsenal is that, like, if you are getting involved now in the top four clashes a bit more, and if Newcastle starts sneaking into the fray, Chelsea have improved, but Chelsea improved last season were extremely poor, even with Havertz in the side. But my only fear is that you could see, is Arsenal in danger of being like another United, where they spend a hell of a lot of money, put up a hell of a lot of wages, and then end up hindering the team more rather than helping it. But I think just because you have Arteta and Edu in the setup is probably the difference there.
They probably have the lowest wage bill of any of the top 6 clubs. They have a very low wage bill, which is one of the reasons they can spend this money on transfers. Because that was part of the clear out, getting rid of Ozil, getting rid of Aubameyang, getting rid of those guys who were on ridiculous money. So because their wage bill is so low, that's one of the reasons that they can spend this kind of money.
As Brian said there, because he says because you got kids, you won't win anything with kids, Steve. That's kind of going leading into, because he said, because I knew the wage bill was kind of low, but there's a lot of being spending happening with the boys, But like I said,
I mean, other than like if Partey is playing, he brings up the average age of the team. Obviously, the 2 youngest teams were Southampton were the youngest team last season. They finished bottom, and Arsenal were the second youngest team. They finished second. So this is a team that's going to grow together, and you hope that they learn as well from coming second and from the disappointment. They seem to. I mean, Saka just seems, I thought when they, when he scored the penalty to beat Liverpool that day, after having missed in the European Champion, the pressure on his shoulders that day for a guy so young to be able to do that. And I know then he blasted one wide against West Ham when the pressure was on as well. But nothing seems to faze him at all.
I love him. I love him as a player. He's my long term. Sorry, Steve. He's my long term Salah replacement.
Yeah. I mean, he is, and he just gets kicked and kicked and kicked, and no one's ever booked. I don't know. I'd say the stats for a guy that gets booked for kicking Saka is pretty low. I don't think anyone's ever booked for kicking him, and he just gets up and gets on with it, and he never misses a game. He's never injured.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you want.
And I think that's with Declan Rice too, because I think at times last season, Thomas Partey was probably the best midfielder in the world. He was that good. But the last few seasons, it comes down to the last 3 months. He's either off form or he's not fit. And I think Declan Rice, even if he doesn't hit those levels, at least, with Declan Rice, he's going to play every game of the season if you need him to. As I say that now, he'll probably, do the cruciate ligament next week.
We found out with Luis Diaz. It came in 6 months. Then the start of the next season did his knee in, and then we didn't see him again for 6 months. So we know that feeling. But no, Rice is it's a good sign. It's a lot of money. He's got a lot of money to live up to. I think, from my opinion, with other players that are coming in a similar position, I think it's taking the pressure off them a bit because of the price tag on Rice. So maybe even Mount going to United being a big price tag is taking it off. Szoboszlai, McAllister.
Yeah, I think part of the transfer nonsense too came last season with like Mudryk going to Chelsea for as much as he did, and what happened to him, how bad he was, and Anthony going to United for as much money as he did, and how little he delivered. And then you're going to have clubs saying, "Well, look at the price they paid for these guys." And
Market needs to get smarter.
Like Balogun at Arsenal had a good season on loan in France, but I mean Lacazette finished ahead of him in the goal scoring charts in France, and there's talk of 40 or 50 million for someone to sign Balogun this season. So the transfer, and like we were saying beforehand, Burnley signing the young goalkeeper for 15 million. Transfer prices have just gone nuts.
Yeah,
Andrew, I think you might be on a couple of bevies here, but I love your optimism. Really, like
I've seen Andrew. Andrew, you spelled Forest right. That winds me up so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sends loads.
He's trying to go for me, but I'm not going to respond to it.
Don't react anyway.
I'm not reacting.
In terms of obviously, though, in relation to obviously Nigel's, what's your thinking of Forest this season? Any signings happening on the peripheral, really, Miss?
Well, we've been heavily linked to Dean Henson, like he was with Forest last season. Yeah. But because I think the situation with De Gea, and they haven't got a goalkeeper yet, so I think Man United are trying to hold back on Dean Henson until they get a goalkeeper. But as you know, I think every club in the Premier League have been linked with each player every day. But I know we've been linked with Callum. What's the name? Chelsea.
Callum Hudson-Odoi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been linked with him.
It'd be a good signing.
He'll be a very good signing because I think, as everyone knows, Steve Cooper loves signing young players because he can get the best out of them. So, I don't think we need to, because last season we had to rush because, like I said, we had players out of contract, weren't good enough for Premier League, etc., etc. But I think we're taking.
Sorry. I'm sorry, mate. I'm just looking at the is it Ayew's gone, Smith's gone,
Yes.
Jesse Lingard, big wages off the wage. I know he didn't like. Did he disappoint for you, Jesse Lingard, for the expectation really, or?
The thing about Jesse Lingard, because the formation that Steve Cooper played, like we played the 3-5-2-1, the 4-3, whatever. That role, that number 10 role that Jesse Lingard meant to have played, that was so important to Forest, but it just wasn't good. It just wasn't great for Forest. Off the pitch, helping the young players like the young Brennan Johnson, Morgan Gibbs-White, and other young players at Forest. He's helped them really good, but just on the pitch, loads of injuries. I think the game that stuck out that made him not play for Forest again was Spurs away because we needed points, and with Jesse's experience and that, he was a nobody. And said what Jesse Lingard's achieved in football has been great with Man U, West Ham, and England, but it just didn't work out. I think we all I think the owner's son, Matildas, he wanted a player that can give, so people can look at us because Jesse Lingard's a brand. So, but it just didn't work out, and it's disappointing that it didn't work out. But listen, we've got to think about Forest, and hopefully Jesse Lingard can play somewhere different and get his form back.
Did he? Do you think that he's been kind of like Nathaniel Klein, where he's a victim of his entourage? Because he seems to spend a lot of time doing a lot of social stuff rather than football. He tries to get involved, but I think the whole glamour of the football lifestyle is taking over him rather than the actual game itself. And they lose themselves into that. Yeah,
I was going to say, he antipifies the modern day footballer now. Like,
I think what it is, I think that before the World Cup started, that he had a little bit of form, and I think he played well against Crystal Palace. He scored against Spurs, and then straight after, because all eyes were on Jesse, he did a documentary about his mental health off the pitch. So we thought, okay, we know what's been happening off the pitch, but I think Forest fans are more interested in what he does on the pitch, because if he's got that kind of stuff, then fair enough, that's happening. But he's a top player, and like I said, it just didn't work out for him at all, and we are disappointed. But the problem with me with Jesse, like we was rushing players signed straight away, and he signed so late for Forest because I think we played Newcastle. I think we played Notts County. Came in and his debut, his first game he played was fantastic, but then we had the big games like Newcastle, Everton, and it just didn't work out for him. But it's hey ho, eh?
Yeah, Steve. Get you for a second. Oh, sorry, Jack. Were you going to say something else?
I was just going to wax lyrical about one of my favourite Forest players, Ryan Yates. I love him.
Oh, he's good, he's such a good player. Yeah.
He is one of the most.
Listen to me, I love the channel.
He made an absolute fool out of our midfield, didn't he?
You're listening to right.
Yeah.
He's a tremendous
Ryan
player,
Yates, right? And people will know how I rate Ryan Yates. I watched the guy since he was on loan at Notts County, 2018, and the way he has progressed in a Forest shirt has been absolutely mad, because he's had criticism, but I've stuck by him because he's not one of them players that can do tic-tac football, da-da-da. Listen, he does his job. And last season, 2 seasons ago under Steve Cooper, under Chris Hooton, like I said, he was absolutely shocking, and he said that himself. But then when Steve Cooper come in, put his arm around him, and just be like, Brian, just be yourself. And the guy was so I think he scored like he's a DM, but he scored 9 goals from a guy that got absolutely slaughtered by a few Forest fans as well. But when we got promoted to the Premier League, I thought to myself, you know what? I think he's ready for it because I don't know. Like I said, we played against Liverpool in the FA Cup 2 seasons ago when you lot beat us 1-0, and I thought to myself, he's ready. He's ready for the Premier League. And last season, like I said, you just mentioned the Premier League when we beat you 1-0. I think you had, was it Harvey Elliott, Fabinho in that midfield? He bullied you.
He was
bullied you. And I
outstanding.
thought to myself, you know what? If this guy can do it consistently, he can be a top player. But as you know, Premier League, it's ruthless. You've got to be on your game all the time. But listen, Ryan Yates is a top lad. One of I don't have favorite players in this time. My older players back in the day, but I'm a massive fan of my current players like Ryan Yates, Brennan Johnson, Joe Worrell, and Yatesy. Listen, he never fails in the Forest shirt. Always give the 100%. Even the players that we had, the 30 players that we had, Yates was still there for me.
Yeah, he's very good. Just you came in, big up, Hannah. Welcome to the chat as well. I was going up here. Welcome again, dude. So Niall, sorry, and
Pick up that bed.
Redbird, how are you keeping? So Steve, right, getting on to do you think you? First of all, the first question I have: do you think you lose both Partey and
Granite
Xhaka?
I think Jack is gone. I think Partey will stay.
I think you stay.
Because
I mean, the big elephant in the room is what I'm talking about is that the two of us are being linked with Lavia at the moment, and it kind of depends on Partey going or staying for you. But whereas we actually, we're kind of heavily linked with him chatting at the moment. So I don't know what the story is.
Yeah, I think once Arsenal get Timber in, it'll be maybe another midfielder. And I think beyond that, it's going to be, if they sign another Martinelli or another Marquinhos or something like that, it's going to be like a young kid somewhere who's not ready for the first team yet. But I think they'll focus more now on getting rid of players. I think Kieran Tierney's going to go because I just think he's too ambitious to stay as a backup. Okay. Sambi Lakonga's probably going to go. He might like to hang on to him. I remember someone talking to me the other day about it. It's like Arteta is somewhat of a hoarder. It's like he doesn't want. It's like he thinks I can make all these guys superstars, but they're going to have.
We'd have to say something similar about Jurgen Klopp because he's kept a lot of players on their contracts till the very, very end, and he always thinks they're going to come good, But
I think yes, I think Kieran Tierney's got to go. As much as I love him, he just doesn't fit the system. As much great defender, and I think they can get a good price for him. I think Sambi Lakonga may go. Marquinhos is probably going to go on loan again. Pepe is the one that's going to be. I don't know. That's where you hope Saudi Arabia come in. I think for Pepe because I can't see him going there anymore. Yeah, Pepe is still there.
He's still there.
Still there. He was out on loan in France last season. He got injured before Christmas. When he was on loan in France, and it kind of hampered him a little bit. So he didn't have a great season in France. He had kind of a good run of about 4 or 5 games, and then he got injured, and he never kind of got the form back. So he's another one they're going to have to get rid of. His
confidence, didn't he? He got completely changed player. He was good when he first came in for a bit, and then he just died off.
He was playing in a system where very similar, I suppose, to what Crystal Palace were playing for a long time with Zaha, where they just leave Pepe forward and hit him on the break with his pace. And it just didn't suit Arteta's system at all. And it's how far Arsenal have come. Like learning from your mistakes, I suppose, is one of the big things. They wanted Zaha that summer. They couldn't get him. So they went and signed Pepe because it was easier to pay it over however many years. And they've learned since then that, look, that's not the way to go. The manager wants someone, that's what we're going to try and get. And that was it with Rice. As soon as Man City came in with a bid, Arsenal were like, well, look, this is what we're going to bid. This is like we're going all in here. We're not going to mess about anymore. That's who the manager wants. And I think the fact that Havertz came in first put more pressure because I don't think Havertz works in the midfield without Rice being next to him.
Yeah. And is that where you think Rice is going to play? Because I would assume that most clubs would play him in that DM role, but I think, is he going to sit further right?
I think he'll stay more to right, but I think he will be in that DM role. Like when Arsenal lose the ball, they drop into a 4-4-2. And I think if Havertz is in that left aid, I think it'll be more Odegaard and Rice in the middle, and Saka and Martinelli will be left and right defending, and I think Havertz will move further forward. when they're in a more defensive shape. Is what I think they'll probably do. Zinchenko as well pushes into midfield so often, which is where he plays obviously for Ukraine. So he's that's one of the things. It's hard because the players just come from everywhere, and it reminds me of like Arsenal under Wenger when they had so many runners, and it must be like that for teams sometimes when they're playing them. There's just players everywhere.
Like I always
do we follow our man or do we not follow our man? And I think Rice is going to be key in terms of when we lose the ball. He's going to be the one that has to shield that back four, or probably the back three as it'll be, because Zinchenko is usually off drifting up the field somewhere.
That's the one thing that I worry for Arsenal when it happened, because it happened with City, and I found a lot of our stuff that happened when we went down the right was because Zinchenko obviously used to drift forward for City. And I think he just leaves them open a bit. I think he's very similar to the way Trent is, to be honest with you, in the way we play our team. I think he leaves you guys open at the left-hand side as much as Trent can leave us open on the right. But the difference being is that is how much of a difference Trent makes when he goes forward compared to Zinchenko. So I don't know, but it's just, I'd like to see a bit more defensive work out of Zinchenko. But you probably don't need to do it if the three-man backline works. But
I think especially like Ben White obviously played as a centre back most of his career in the midfield. So if he's right back, he can shift into the centre pretty easily. And Timber has done it all his career as well, so he can shift back into the centre back, and Rice can cover him. Because the thing with Thomas Partey, I think, is a lot of people who don't watch Arsenal all the time assume Thomas Partey, because of his size, that he's this great ball-winning midfielder. He's not. He's never been that. He's dribbled past a lot. He's very good at getting the ball where there's men on him and turning and getting it forward. So we'll wait and see. What happens.
There's a question there.
That way, yeah.
There's a question there from the upper tiers. Is Niall? Hello, Niall. Big up. Why are Arsenal selling Balogun when they need a goal scorer?
They also need the money.
Balogun's a good player, man. Balogun's a good player.
Yeah, he's a very good player, and I think
he's better than Eddie. He's better than Eddie Nketiah.
Yeah, he is. But is there a market for Eddie Nketiah? There might be. And I don't think Arteta wants to sell Balogun. But if someone's going to offer you 40 or 50 million pounds for him, you have to take it. He is a good goal scorer, but like I said, he scored a lot of goals in the league last season where Alexander Lacazette was the top goal scorer in the league. And the guy could barely walk when he was playing for Arsenal, so I don't know how he scored so many goals last season in France. I think Balogun, they'll hang on to him because they're touring America and he's now an American international, and he's going to be like, one of the faces of that team as they go to host the World Cup. So they'll hang on to him at least for pre-season to sell some jerseys and that when they're touring America. But they need goals, they're saying, he'll be worth double in 3 years. He might be, but it's always a risk, and it's him as well. I mean, it's not just down to the club wanting to keep a player. It's about the player wanting to play as well. And if he's told, look, you'll be rotated, maybe he'll be okay with that. Maybe he won't be. It's tough when you've played a full season, I suppose, at a young age. It's tough.
It's definitely
Mark there.
By the league.
We'll be here for like another 2 hours if we all spoke about Chelsea anyway. I think.
I don't talk about Chelsea, man.
So Joe, we'll go around the house as well in terms of chat as well. Joe, firstly, ask you, mate, in terms of, would you anticipate really if you could pick one team, or like do you anticipate to be a surprise package going into this coming season? Really, my eyes on. I personally will pick two teams. I'm intrigued first and foremost, and you'll probably be best placed really in terms of how you anticipate Luton to very much bed into the Premier League, mate. And another team for me is Aston Villa. We've seen their upward trajectory in terms of the back end of last season, obviously chalk and cheese in relation to Gerrard and Emery. But in terms of how Pau Torres, they've just bought from Villarreal, obviously a very shrewd sign in Tielemans. His attitude, but in terms of his on the ball movement, mate. But firstly, Jordan, in terms of your surprise package going into next season, mate, is the one team that you could, or is it potentially Forest, mate? Or
I think the team for me, I think like the Spiders last season, and I think Brighton again, because did they finish? Is it 7th in the league? I don't know if
it was 6th, 7th.
League.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
I personally think, I know they've lost two players, McAllister to you lot. Cosido, he's soon be going, but They do it all the time. One player goes to bring a better player next in. So for me, I think if Brighton start well in the season, I'm not saying they will get top 4, but you never know in this Premier League. But for me, it's definitely Brighton. But you mentioned Villa. Like I said, they brought some decent players in. But for me,
Can't look
definitely Brighton.
the
The situation with Luton, like you mentioned Luton, like it's a fairy tale for them. And they're getting the big money now. But the players they're bringing in from Barnsley, I'm no disrespect to Barnsley, but I think they definitely need good young players and experienced players. I know it's still early in the game, the transfer window, blah, 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 they still can bring in. But I think they need to bring in at least some experienced players who's playing the league. And I think I think everyone's going to say exactly the same thing anyway. Luton's going to struggle, but you never know. Everyone said the same about Forest. Everyone said the same about Bournemouth, and everyone said about
Sheffield as well a couple of years ago when their first season.
Exactly. So listen, I think all Luton fans need to is just look forward to it, like I did.
They should be aiming at the ilk of the bench on Crystal Palace or somebody like that to bring in
because the thing is about
the game. Yeah,
he's thinking right because the 3 teams actually Forest, Bournemouth, and who else stayed up? Who
Everton.
stayed up? No, from
okay.
Who was it?
Forest, Bournemouth, and I've got the table up here. Fulham. Yeah,
Fulham. That's it. Fulham. And look at Fulham. Fulham stayed in the top 10. And I don't want to say it's a weak league because Leicester, Leeds, and got relegated. But you never know. Luton could surprise anyone, but it's going to be tough. But they need to bring at least some experienced players and some young good players. That's what we did. Like players like Morgan Gibbs-White, who for us, I thought, okay, it's going to be a big season for him, but everyone's talking about him. So listen, Luton's got to bring some good players in if they want to stay up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, experience is a key when it comes to that, and Forest showed it by bringing in the players that they did with Premier League experience. Fulham had some players with Premier League experience when they brought them in, and it just goes to show that because of the young side that they had with not much Premier League experience left in Southampton, besides the Ward-Prowses and that, they suffered big time. Leicester's whole situation between the owners, though, there was a staleness at Leicester last season.
Yeah, it was.
There's not one happy face around the whole camp. There was something going on there behind the scenes. So
listen, I've got no sympathy for Leicester. No sympathy for that. Like we could talk about rivals. Like I said, I don't care about Leicester. You mentioned it. I think they finished 5th in there. They won the FA Cup.
Yeah.
No, they thought they were the big bollocks. I'm thinking, we're going to do another good season. But now, and no disrespect, look, I think the owner who passed away did a fantastic job.
He did. He was. Yeah. I think it was since he went to gone a bit stale.
Yeah, it was just stale. Sorry, Kev.
You're going, bud.
The problem was they're selling players and they're not replacing them with more good players.
Yeah,
that's what like he mentioned Timmermans. He had an attitude problem. People like Vardy, his age is getting a bit old now. So listen, I've got no sympathy for Leicester fans.
Yeah,
they always come from the neck all the time anyway. So, but listen, let them rot in league championship.
Yeah. The only thing that I would say a difference with Brighton when you're on about it, I still think that Brighton are a great side and they'll do it. The only thing that I think that's going to kind of slow them down a bit in the league this season is the fact that they're playing Europa League now, and I think it's similar to West Ham. Anyway,
but I think they'll do well. I know
maybe.
I know when teams play in the Europa League, they always struggle, but I think they'll do well if I'm honest. Okay. Because I think who's the guy from Watford, Joe Pedro, another good signing. James Milner, experienced player who knows the league. This is why I mentioned Brighton, because they're going to be there's going to be a team again. Be pushing. 5th, and that's what. And as from Forest, like we should be following the footsteps of Brighton and Brentford.
I was just about to say that, Dord, as well. That's probably
Yes.
why there's such a beacon of hope, really, for everyone outside
Yes.
the top four.
Yeah.
Like, if you get your principles right from top to bottom of your football club, who's to say Forest couldn't go and do what Brighton are doing? Or even
I
better?
don't care if we get European. I'll be so happy if we get European football next season. But look at West Ham. They won it, and for everyone's going to follow the footprint of what the method of Brighton and Brentford have done. And if we could do exactly the same, I know when Brighton got promoted, I think the first 3 years, they was in that bracket of mid. Start at the bottom, then slowly come up and up. And if Forest can do exactly the same, listen, all Forest fans will be happy because after the mess that we've had in the past, listen, I'll take it all along.
Yeah. 100%.
Right, Steve. So for you, who do you think is going to be the surprise packages for next season for you?
Well, I see there in the chat, Nathan Collins won Brentford. I think Brentford could have a great season next season, even with Tony suspended. He's going to be out for 8 months. I think, just like you were saying, with Brighton took a few years to get their feet. Brentford have been there now a few seasons. The manager's really, really good. The way they set up is really, really good. They seem to sign really clever players. I just think Brentford are going to really, really push things this season. It's such a tough place to go. Like you were mentioning, Luton, who I watched a lot in the Championship, is going to be a horrible place for people to go to. That ground is it's amazing. I can't wait to see it in the Premier League. It's very tough to beat Luton there. Burnley had a great season coming up. I mean, again, it's one of those where hopefully they don't adjust their football. I know when Leeds first came up, they just kept playing the same way.
Yeah.
And it worked well for them. I hope Burnley do the same thing. I hope they keep playing the same way they've been playing, that they don't try to adjust things. So I do think Brentford are going to be one of those teams to do well. I think Crystal Palace could surprise people next season, especially if they hang on to those two.
Why?
Because our White, he's still going, boys. Like he is Emperor Palpatine of Star Wars or something. He's a man,
I just love the Olise. I just love him as a player. I just think it was Zaha and just Zaha alone for so long. I know they've got these young wingers as well. I mean, they're just unbelievable.
And Zaha's gone now, isn't he?
It's a tough place to go. It's a tough place to go and get a result. And I think with Forest last season, a lot of that is why they stayed up. At home, they were just so tough to beat at home.
Easy. We beat you easy. Like we beat Liverpool, sorry.
Yeah.
Actually,
and I think that's kind of the blueprint for like Burnley and Luton and them coming up as well. Be tough to beat at home. Whatever happens away, be very tough to beat at home and, give yourself a chance with 10 games to go. But yeah, I do think Crystal Palace could surprise people next season because there's a lot of experience in Hodgson, and you saw that when he came in at the end of the season. And he obviously still has the hunger for it to keep going. So,
maybe. I'm on the same boat as you, Jack. I think Aston Villa are going to do well next season. With the signings that they made of astute, Emery in charge has done well. They kind of drifted off a bit at the end of last season, but I think they were already in holidays. He did the job that he needed to do.
Pre-season is so important for all these Premier League managers. Even it's so understated when a manager comes in 6 months into the Premier League campaign, but they'll have 2-3 weeks really to get the fundamental principles of their philosophy down on the pitch as well, and really get down and ready really in terms of that, mate. But yeah, Aston Villa for me. It will be very interesting. I've seen quite a bit of that Pau Torres as well. Very experienced, 24, 25-year-olds, left-footed centre half, and he's got it's ridiculous. It's like going from Jamie Carragher to Paolo Maldini. Anyway, he is light years ahead of Tyrone Mings. Anyway, I know he's the captain of Villa. Anyway, but I think it's John McGinn. Anyway, whoever it is, but yeah, they are probably one of my surprise packages.
No, for me, I'm going to throw one out. I'm going to go with the most overachieving or overrated team from last season. I know, as a Liverpool fan, it might sound like I'm being very simplistic here.
Don't say that team.
I am. I'm going to say it. I think so. I think overachieved last season. I think United did. I did.
Overachieved?
Yeah. I think they overachieved last season for what they were, because they were 13 points behind where they were the season before with Ronaldo and Ranić. And I think everybody else dropped off around them. And I think that only Newcastle, Aston Villa the second half of the season, and Arsenal improved last season. I think City stayed the same. And just had Haaland scoring a multitude of goals without playing their normal ticky-tack football. And I think that United was... And actually, if you look at the way it went, I think Spurs will benefit for a long time because they were terrible. But yet they stayed in fifth for the longest time because everybody else was just playing poorly around them. And then it just showed when Brighton got better, Liverpool started playing better in the second half of the season, Aston Villa started playing better, Spurs just dropped down. But United just managed to keep those points, the space of points that them and Newcastle had gained throughout the season upwards. But they still finished 13 points behind where they finished the season before, which is... That's not an improvement to me. I know they got a trophy out of it, but they haven't. So unless I see a major... is Mason Mount going to be a big improvement for them? I just want to see your opinion on, because we're kind of delving into we're going to dip out and out of the top four as we're going along. But for me, I'm just kind of thinking, where do you think that they'll kind of go this season coming, based on the signings, based on the recruitment, based on Ten Hag's type of plans? Because in last season as well, they lost a lot of games by a lot of goals. I mean, Brentford destroyed them, we destroyed them. You know, I think Brighton destroyed them at one point as well. So, you know, there was a lot of games they got really done last season. So
there is. They lost more games last season than they ever did under Solskjaer in the time he was in charge. In terms of league games, I think they're a mess at the minute with this whole takeover thing. I think the way they've treated De Gea is disgraceful.
Disgusting. Yeah.
Imagine De Gea come to Forest. I love that.
He should. He'd be more respected at Forest, and he'll have a good end to his career out there, I think. That'd be a good show for me.
We need a goalkeeper. So De Gea come to Forest.
Could you imagine any player at a club for the length of time he's been there treated that
12
way?
years, man.
Yeah.
Like, that is a long time.
It
was the last chance of Fergie as well, Steve, wasn't it? In terms of, he was there when he won the Premier League, so it was remarkable.
He won in the Premier League, him and Van Persie. Like the goals and the saves, they were outstanding.
Yeah, and I mean it's crazy the way they've done it. Like, Ten Hag, I suppose, knows what he wants. I think they're in a lot of trouble in terms of they're kind of where Arsenal were a few years ago, when Arteta first came in terms of they have a lot of players on a lot of money who cost a lot of money that are just terrible and have to be gotten rid of before they can start improving that team. Like Sancho hasn't worked out at all, and I don't know what you're going to do with him.
Yeah, he's been told to leave though, because he's asking for a way out as well. So it
costs so much money. Then you would, everything that happened with Greenwood probably didn't help them. Rashford, who was unplayable for about 12 weeks of the season, just totally lost his form. And had it not been,
Ballon d'Or shouts.
What are they going to do with Maguire?
Maguire's not a bad player, man. I don't think he's a bad player, man.
I think he doesn't suit United at all.
I don't think
he United.
He can't play that high line. He'd be good at a team that defends a lot, where he can head the ball out of the box.
Come to Forest. You know what? All these Man U need come to Forest.
I think Maguire would suit some place like Brighton or someplace. I think he's that kind of a defensive. They like to clear the ball and attack him at the head. There's no way you can play a slow defender like him, who's good in the air and tough, shoulder to shoulder, by not giving him giving somebody else the running space on him. Because if you give running space on him, he can't catch up, and it makes him look terrible. And so, he needs to go.
Penalty box defender,
Well, he does the job, doesn't he? He does well for England anyway.
He does well. He does good for England, man.
But then for England, he has Kyle Walker on the outside of him, who's like an Olympic sprinter.
Yeah, that's true.
He doesn't have that at Man United.
So we've mentioned. Do you want to talk a bit about Newcastle United, mate? It's going to be that. Do you anticipate them to go again next season, or do you think, as we've already alluded to at the top of the show, with certain teams having, even with Brighton, do you think you might be a bit too distracted with Champions League football, or?
I think they'll improve, because I think they're one of the richest teams in the world now. I think are they doing the right way of not buying a world player. If everyone understands what I'm saying,
Yeah.
they're doing it the right way.
They were linked to a
Not like-
Neymar at the start, weren't they?
Yeah. Now they brought. Is it someone from AC Milan?
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
well.
Tonali as well. Tonali's coming. Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, I think they've got a good team. They've got a good young team as well. I got Isaac, got Wilson as a forward, Gordon as well. Who can start. He needs to play good next season, Gordon, because that 50 million price tag on him is on him. So he's got to play and start against Newcastle. Because I know he didn't really start from last season.
Yeah.
But Newcastle, they've got to cement another top four. I don't think they'll win the league, but if they get another top four, you can't complain, can you? So listen, I think there is so much pressure on them because I think their owners they want silverware. So listen, they've got a good team, but I think they still need to bring at least one or two another. I'm not saying world class or players that
potential.
everyone knows. Yeah, potential.
Yeah.
I think if they get top four, I think they won't complain.
Yeah, if they fill out the squad, maybe they'll do well. I think they'll struggle to get top four this season only because it's their first learning curve in the Champions League. And I think when you look at the season that they didn't have European football, I know we beat them twice, but then we thought, right, we were the only team to beat them. But then all of a sudden they were losing games after that a bit, and they were drawing a bit too much. They were getting fatigued. And if you add in the Champions League and those extra games, you add in the cup games, and they don't have the squad depth to do it, then maybe it's their chance to give it a go in the Champions League. And if they get third, at least they'll drop down into the Europa League, and they could have a good old season out of that. But for me, I don't think they'll hit the top four directly straight after another top four season unless they build over the next two windows. Maybe.
For me, they're already ahead of schedule, boys. Don't know you.
They are. Yeah.
They are probably in terms of their 5-10 year plan. Don't think the owners anticipated really them to be as far ahead. But it's another one with Stephen in relation to obviously those alluded to, like obviously game time in terms of management of games for Newcastle. That's another question mark that will be getting posed at obviously Mikel Arteta, because we've seen a lot of rivals, and rightfully so. Jurgen doesn't help himself in press conferences, does make top level managers do try the best to protect the players anyway and make excuses, because that's what they are. They are excuses, really. Yeah. And everyone outside of their bubble look at it and go, yeah, it's a massive excuse. Do you anticipate Mikel Arteta to get that right balance for obviously Arsenal performance next season?
He's a guy that when he trusts someone, he just seems like he just doesn't want to replace, like Saka. Sometimes people are screaming out for him, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, because it's like then he drops Saka for a game and everyone is like, well, why isn't Saka playing for this game? When he's sitting on the bench and he's fit. So it's one of those where he's got to learn to do it. And I think a little bit of it last season, when Partey's form dipped, he wasn't afraid to throw Jorginho in and let Jorginho play instead of him. So I think he's learned a little bit, but I think it's cost them the last couple of seasons where he hasn't been, rotating players in and out, because the season before last, when they didn't make the top four, the players were on fumes for the last 5 games of the season. And I think he has to be wiser about it. And next season, they'll have the Champions League, where you can't put out, the reserves basically in Europe in midweek. You've got to play a strong team. So he's going to have to start rotating people a lot more. But there's a lot of players now coming in that he can trust. And that's why I think the likes of Partey are going to stay at the club. He really trusts Reece Nelson. And I think Nelson is going to play there. I think Fabio Vieira is someone that's huge season ahead of him. I think he's got to, he's very, very weak. He's very easy to knock off the ball. He's someone that's really got to start putting the work in.
Come in for big money as well, Steve, didn't he?
Yeah, and out of nowhere. I mean, it's rare these days, I suppose. But I mean, Arsenal signed Vieira and there wasn't even a hint they were in for him, which was very strange in the social media age. You can see some nice touches, but he's very, very weak. He's very easy knock off the ball, and he's someone that you could see that happened to him a few times, and Arteta didn't trust him anymore, and he rarely used him after that. He used Reece Nelson a lot more, who he trusts more. So I hope Arteta learns a little bit from that. And I suppose going back a bit to Newcastle, I think a few things that helped Newcastle last season were Almiron, who beforehand, if he was true on goal, you'd fancy him to hit the corner flag rather than the back of the net, suddenly started scoring goals. And I think Pope had just one of the great seasons a goalkeeper has ever had. And it's their defence, their goalkeeper at Newcastle. Can they keep that standard up for another year? Because their defence was outstanding last season.
Sven Botman, mate, he was one of the signings.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Good player.
Yeah, and it's if Newcastle suddenly start leaking in goals, you'd worry about them a little bit because their defense was so good, and it's hard. And I think Pope is I don't know how he's not England's number one. I really don't.
Yeah, for me, I'm the same. I think exactly the same when it comes to Pope. I rated Pope even before we got Alisson, and I was hoping we'd actually sneak in for him after Mignolet when before we got Alisson. I was like, I'd love Pope. I think Nick Pope at Burnley was great, and he would have been my choice. I think there was a growth in him. Yeah.
I was going to say, I know why you hated for a certain Everton goalkeeper is Kev. That T-Dexing goal. But lads, we'll obviously we're going to do like a graph beginning of the season anyway. We're going to ask you, obviously, we'll start with you, mate, in terms of we'll do top 4 and top 3 predictions as well. Me and Kev will give you ours as well, and then we'll see where we do find ourselves next season. Joe, your top 4, mate.
Can I put Forest there?
Yeah, you can do that.
You can do what you want. Yeah.
No. Top 4, bloody hell. I think Man City will win the league, as always. I think with Arsenal, like I said, with the Rice signing, I think they needed that midfield because they were struggling in midfield last season. So with Rice there, it's a really important signing. But listen, you're not beating Man City. They're too strong for that. So Man City, I think Arsenal will definitely get there. So I think, but you can't write off Chelsea as well and Man U. I'm going to say Spurs because everyone says Spurs will always start and always bottle it. So,
Spurs third then for you and going to next season, or?
No, not Spurs. Not Spurs.
Spurs be relegated next year.
Yeah, so I'll say Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and I've got to say Liverpool, don't I?
You don't have to say it, mate. We were absolutely
because I think
last year.
Last year, I think from last season, I think, like I said, now because it was so successful season before that, wasn't it? And players are coming and going. Money left. Firmino's left now. Salah's the only one there now. From that front three, everything's changing that for Liverpool. So you can't write Liverpool off, can they? So I think Liverpool will definitely get that top 4 for me, but hope they don't.
So City, obviously Liverpool, Arsenal. Who's your fourth team there, mate? That's for you.
Oh, for mine, Man U.
Man U 4th, yeah.
Yeah, Man U 4th.
Yeah, Steve, your top 4, 1 to 4. Have you gone, mate?
Yeah, I think very similar. To be honest with you, I think Chelsea are going to miss out. I think Spurs are going to miss out, and I think it will be Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man United with Man City winning the league. And I just think that's just going to be the way it's going to be for a while. Hopefully not. Hopefully Man City don't win the league, but you never know. I just think like Chelsea are a mess. I think Pochettino is one of the most overrated managers in football. He's a guy that had Spurs' best ever team and couldn't win something with him. Went to PSG and managed to lose the league. I don't see what people see in him, to be honest with you. Like he's not really had a whole lot of success in the last 10 seasons. That club is just a mess. Someone needs to rein in the owner a little bit and stop buying wingers. It's just mad. So I can't see them doing anything. And likewise with Spurs, I think, especially if Kane leaves, they're going to be in a world of trouble. So I can't see other than I think Liverpool, Man United, and Arsenal kind of up there with Man City. I think Liverpool were very unlucky last season with injuries, especially the front three. I think that really, really kind of hampered them a little bit. and their midfield was getting old, and they're freshening that up now at least. So, I do think Liverpool will be back next season. I think it's more of a blip than they're actually kind of on the way down. So,
I'm not saying anything until we're 6 months in, anyway. So,
I'll say like I find that I think Nunes. I think he had a positive season for his first season with us at 15 goals, considering that he barely got any assists or he barely got any help from the midfield. They pretty much had to create their own goals up front, mainly out of long balls and an interchange play, but an underlapping. And I think Trent then played a big part when he started stepping up in the second half of the season. He was the only one who was kind of creating anything in there. So I think I'm going to see a lot more from Nunes this season, especially when I have McAllister and Sovaslai, slipping in passes that we were missing all of last season. And the injuries didn't help either. I still do believe that we need another defender in there to do it. If Lavia comes, or if he doesn't go to Arsenal, or if he comes to us. But for me, top, I can't look past City just because of the season that we've had and because of the season that Arsenal. I know Arsenal have got Champions League football to contend with, and their squad is going to need that depth as well, and they're going to lose experience with Xhaka and Partey in there, so they might have like a transition season when it comes to the league wise. But maybe do okay in the Champions League, and might surprise people and do maybe knockout stages or something like that. And then come back and concentrate in the league and then get into the top four kind of that way, I think. I don't know if United will improve with just Mason Mount in there. And, as poor as Anthony's been, and unless Rashford just keeps him afloat.
No. There's no way they do that.
I don't think they'll hit top four, to be honest with you. I don't, and that's not being it's complete. I'm being as unbiased as I possibly can. I just think on the numbers, they were 13 points. Can they make up 13 points from last season? Because I know that I guarantee you that Chelsea will improve from last season, no matter how poor on what they've done. Aston Villa are definitely going to be a much better side this season to contend with for those spots. Brighton will hover in there and annoy everybody. They mightn't get top four, they mightn't get whatever, but they'll still hover around those European spots. You're going to have the ilk of other players that are going to come up as well. As you said, Crystal Palace are going to improve, and they're going to be hovering around those mid-6 places, and I think they'll cause a bit of a ruckus in there with those kind of teams. It's hard to say, man. I would see if I had a choice for you, I could see Aston Villa getting top four before Chelsea and Spurs, but I can't see United dropping out of top four because everybody else hasn't really improved to that level. And that's the thing. That's the thing. That's the only way that they're going to stick around with top four, because the same as last season, nobody else they've either dropped off or nobody else has improved enough to just hit this top 4 point level. And so yeah, it's going to be Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and I gotta say United. I'm hoping it's Villa or Newcastle that can still squeeze in there, but I just think with Newcastle having Europe and not being quite there yet, I think Arsenal can compete more in Europe than Newcastle can. Just because they've already got the depth there before, so I don't know.
No, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and who's fourth for you?
I don't understand. Do you know what? I'm going to say Chelsea. I think they'll pull in a bit. I think they might. Yeah.
Nah.
I think they might. I might improve in points, but over United, I don't know. I still think they'll improve in points, and unless United sign somebody big. A couple of big players. I don't mean big, but it's just
if the sort of takeover at, I think they'll get someone. But...
Oh yeah, maybe. But right now, as it stands, no, I'll change my mind before the start of the season, because I was between Chelsea and United there for that fourth spot. But I'll see. Just at the moment, United aren't ready. I think Chelsea have bought the players and the whole pre-season on the patch. They might get some sort of cohesion, but they've got the players that are better than everybody else that's around there. So they might actually start clicking a little bit. But outside that, no. Unless United improve on their signings and replace that midfield, I just can't. I can't see him doing it. But yeah, for me, I'm just going to say it's going to be City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Chelsea at the moment, as it stands. I could change my mind before the start of the season, though.
I'll change as well. I think I'll change. I want to see who buys who. I think then I might change my mind, but
over next
we all will. Yeah,
we will.
This is kind of like a mid transfer window kind of look into what's the looking glass. Let's say,
because next couple of weeks,
maybe I'll put Forest in the top 4. So you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, don't worry about the dog, lads. You see, because Steve is from the south side. He doesn't like the north side accent. Because I'm a north side Cork boy. He just doesn't like my accent. That's all it is. Steve is from the opposite side of the river. So, you know,
That's it.
he's like, is that north side fella again? Shut up. But yeah, that's the dog, don't worry.
I would have went with Liverpool. Liverpool fared. I would have went City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and I would have went. Who's there? Newcastle. Yeah, because one thing that Newcastle thrive on is clean sheets as well, boys. In last season, that's one thing that Eddie Howe very much did to stabilize them at the back. Really, they were absolutely leaking goals at the back. I think they had the best defensive record in the Premier League. Them and City, anyway. So.
Did they improve left back on Dan Bourne?
They're looking at it, I think. Anyway,
I think that's one of the places Tierney is linked with is Newcastle. So.
Okay, if they do, then I'll start looking at them as well. Yeah.
Yeah, they were linked today, I think, with Cucurella as well from Chelsea, 25 million. Chelsea fans were like, "We'll snap your hand off anyway." But yeah, we've Kev. I don't know how long the lads have got this evening. Mate, but it's been I was going to say, lads, I think we'll wrap up here.
I think it's enough for now. Yeah.
Say,
we can touch back base as the weeks go on, and we can keep changing our opinions, and we can watch the transfer windows as it comes about. We appreciate it, lads, because it is like we do tend to run our shows around the hour and quarter mark when we're on it. So that's the way it is, just to try and get in as much info as we possibly can. We can look at the mid-tier to lower tier teams again eventually in the next show.
We'll be an interesting couple of weeks ahead anyway.
I think so. So usually Jack says this, but I'm going to say this time. Dor, could you please shout out your socials and leave us know what you're doing this week?
So I'm Dom with Dom on tour. I do Nottingham Forest content. I follow the club up and down the country. I do podcasts, review shows, preview shows. I interview ex-Nottingham Forest players on my Door on Tour channel. It's in below there. You can see it there, Door on Tour. So yeah, if you do want to see me, like I said, I've got quite a lot of content coming out this week, Forest content. So if you can do a massive favour for me, please hit the subscribe button on my channel as well.
Yeah, definitely there, mate. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. Chat, one thing you can do tonight, make sure you do smash subscribe to Joe. Really do appreciate you jumping on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, matey. Chris, Steve, sorry.
No, Steve.
I don't even know where Chris comes from.
I know, I suppose we don't have much with Deep Red Productions earlier. Like Kev said, we do a lot of music videos and film stuff and that. And we're prepping kind of for November. We have a cool... it's almost like a Most Haunted type TV show that we can't talk too much about yet. That we're producing with some crowd, so that's going to be a lot of fun, I think. And
you got 2 awards recently, Steve, didn't you? Again,
Saturday night, one of my films won a couple of awards, which was nice. I won the local film festivals here down in Cork, which was nice to win that. It's kind of a nice film around kind of suicide and mental health, especially with men. You know, that it is okay for men, especially, to go and talk if you're feeling down. So it's
have you got the name of the movie to tell the folks there so they might go and watch it if they have nothing to watch at night? You know?
Well, Good to Talk is the name of it. We'll try and get it online once it's done its festival run. But it's it's been good. Luke chirping in there.
Is he looking for a part?
He is. He's looking for a part. He's jealous of
Get him on.
Show the people the dog. Come on.
Yeah.
They said I've seen him earlier. He was laying on his shoulder.
He's a Newcastle fan, really.
There we go.
Look at it. Look, he sees the badge. He sees the badge. Look. Come on.
So that's about what I'm doing kind of at the minute. Is we're doing some film stuff and that kind of thing, prepping for a few different movies that are coming up. We're editing our newest feature film that'll hopefully come out sometime in 2024. The edit is still going on that. It's kind of early days in the edit of that, but we shot that in April. A little horror comedy, and other than that, just watching a lot of football, waiting for the Women's World Cup to start, and going to be looking forward to that. And Arsenal women with a huge signing as well today. Yeah. With Russo going to Arsenal.
Wow.
Looking forward to seeing them play next season, and hopefully they won't get too many ACL injuries. They had their fair share of them this year. So
are you managing yourself this season again, Steve?
I am. We just finished the season at Kilreen Celtic, so we'll be under 16s next season, which will be great. Perfect. I've had the kids since they were under 7s, So I've seen them grow from 6-year-olds up to teenagers now. So we'll be looking forward to coaching them again next season.
So you make sure you get your 15% when at least 2 or 3 of them become big for Arsenal.
Yeah. Well, we've had a few. Kevin Long used to play there. Ogbene, obviously, who moved to Luton last week as well, used to play with us when he was a kid. So we've had a few that have gone on to play in the Premier League from the club. Hopefully we'll see a few more.
And Ireland, right?
Yeah, a few of them have gone on to play for Ireland.
That's as big as they get anyway. But listen, lads, thanks very much for popping on to Door and to Steve. Jack, if you wanna give a shout out to the lads and what we're going to do, or
no, it was massive thank you for the panelists as well. Joe, Steve, massive thank you for taking the time out this evening. Really do appreciate it, boys. And hopefully get you on if he's free in the next couple of weeks as well. It's going to be a regular thing every Tuesday and Thursday as well. We'll introduce the fixtures. Well, probably do one at the end of the week. We're not 100% on the second one, but we'll review the results of the weekend.
I think if we do a Tuesday, it's probably going to be a Friday, and if we do a Monday, it's probably going to be a Thursday. That kind of it's like a 4-day gap.
We've got you lot first anyway, Steve. In the Premier League.
Yeah. So that'll be fun.
There you go. That's the first episode just beforehand, just to look up at Nottingham Forest and Arsenal. We get you in, and it won't be so nice. I'd say 5 seconds before the show.
We'll just leave Dawn and Steve to just go at it. For like
I see like the 2 stars on the crest, and about
this
time last
year. Can everyone see it? Can everyone see it? I can't see those stars with Arsenal yet.
No.
Maybe in 20 years' time.
I was going to say I ran into Martin O'Neill last year. And somebody was saying something to him, and I goes, "This guy won 2 European Cups." And Martin said, "That was an awful long time ago." I don't think there's many people remember that. So
listen, I don't care what people say. We won it, and Arsenal haven't. So that's
there we go.
Not yet.
There we go.
That was a great Forest team, and Martin O'Neill was delighted that someone was willing to talk about his playing career, because not many people realise he used to play football. I think.
Legend.
But a massive thank you to everyone that is tuned in this evening as well, everyone. And if there's anyone that's just tuned in for 5-10 minutes anyway, you'd like to get involved, your rival, we're trying to get as many people involved as
I did see a guy, Josh, earlier. Tat for Josh, is it? I just seen it earlier, but we were kind of finishing up at this stage. Josh, if you're a Spurs supporter, let us know. If you're a channel, if you're over the legal age, to come on and talk with a bunch of adults, we'd appreciate it as well, because we like to keep it above board and legal here. So if you can let us know if you're a Spurs fan or what's the scenario. We don't normally bring guests on unless we've kind of seen them in action first with the show, so that we can give the best quality show that we possibly can. But we will get guests on in the future where people can have their 5-minute says and do that kind of live call-in show, no problem whatsoever. But if you've anything to chat about with Spurs, no problem. Come on, let us know. You can find Jack at on Twitter. You can find myself at Twitter at SpiderLFC, and Jack is at Jack Mac. Are you on for your road or Jack Mac?
Jack Mac anyway.
Jack, you changed it so often, but you find him Jack Mac on Twitter anyway. So you'll find us there. But lads, appreciate you coming on again. We do love it. This is, we're trying to get these shows going as much as possible. Me and Jack have done the odd show coming along. Kev does a bit of sketches with me, so there's a lot of content going to be coming up over the next season or so. I'll be doing live video vlogs. I'll be doing 2 different edits, one for my own channel, one for this channel. And we'll also be getting Jack involved when I'm over in Liverpool as well for the Kitmen, and we'll do a couple of vlogs that way. With regards that, if you didn't know, I finally, after 35 years, I'm after getting myself a season ticket for Anfield. And but it's
don't do it. Don't do it.
But we have to, and we're going to be going over a few times this next season. Thank God for that. But but at the end of the day, I'm going to be doing a lot of match day vlogs. It should be cool. If I see some of you over there, I'll meet you. I'll have a pint with you, no problem. We could do a meet up inside one of the pubs in Anfield. That'll be great. Because you've been great supporting me last season, especially some of the mods like Mark and Panov and the rest of the guys that have been modding for me recently, and for Jack on his channel as well, obviously, because that's where I found those guys and they came over onto me. So we appreciate you supporting us. We appreciate you following us channel to channel, even no matter what we're trying to grow. And we appreciate the guests that come on more so than anything else, because this is what it's all about. It's all about football, lads, and this is it's about getting the right type of football discussion going and leaving everything else in the bin. All right, so we are the Kitmen. Thanks for watching us, and I suppose we'll talk to you very soon. Jack, do you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye. You can run the credits live, you Thank you for
Look, let's.
The Kitmen!